Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, CMO at BeatX, along with BeatX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. What's new, David?
Hey, Jesse. All good here. Been busy as usual. This is going to be my last episode for a couple of weeks. Adam's going to be filling in for me in the next 2 weeks as I finally get a vacation. It's been a while.
Nice. I
And
love
so
to hear that.
I'm looking forward to some relaxation. So that'll be nice. But before I go, we've got a great episode today. So I'm excited to get started.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, as much as we'll miss you on Deconstructing Data, I'm glad that you'll get a vacation. And today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome on Omar Tawakol, CEO and founder of Rembrand. Welcome to the show, Omar.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And Omar, we're excited to have you join us on the show today. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy schedule and you got to catch a flight after this. So we're going to jump right into it and ask you to kick us off a little bit. Give our listeners and viewers a chance to get to know you a little bit. Give us a little background on you and what led you to become the founder of Rembrand.
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me on the show, particularly before you go off on vacation. I've been in this industry for a while. In starting a company called Blue Kai, we built a lot of the data infrastructure and pipes and identity and everything that was needed in the early days of programmatic. And we plugged in everywhere. Oracle acquired us, we became the Oracle Data Cloud. It's just a fantastic run, enabled us to partner with pretty much everybody in the industry. I left Oracle and started an AI company way before LLMs. This was 2017. And a couple of years in, we got acquired by Cisco and integrated into WebEx so that you can join in a meeting and get live transcription and intent detection and translation and stuff like that. And then we left and formed the company Rembrand. So that gives you a bit of history. And Rembrand takes me back into the ad industry. And we wanted to solve just a fascinating problem. And that is, as programmatic has become really, really big, something odd is happening. And that is that consumers are avoiding interruptive ads. They literally pay money to not get ads, right? I mean, watch things like Netflix and Amazon Prime. And when they're on YouTube, if you give them an option to hit the skip button, they do. So how do you make ads more engaging, and how do you put brands in situations where people are going to really pay attention? And what we started noticing is that because marketers realize this consumer reaction to ads, they've been working hard to sponsor content. So one form of sponsorship is, product placement. You negotiate 2 years in advance to get in a script, and it's very effective if you can be Reese's Pieces inside of, a movie, or Harley Davidson with an action hero on it, like, or Aston Martin in a Bond movie. Great stuff, but sometimes will cost tens of millions and take years in advance. And we realized, what if you could automate that and handle things like that post-production? And the reason we thought that was interesting is, even if you're not getting into a movie and you're dealing with an influencer, it's 6 weeks to get with an influencer. Like, you've got to find them, you have to sign a contract, you ship product, you negotiate a script, they get the script and they say, hell no, I would never say that. I have to put it in my voice. You go back and forth, and it's just very high friction. And our insight was, what if we could take really good organic content? It was filmed authentically without even knowing what brand is going to be impacted by that. And you can virtually place it later, and you can turn organic content into high performing advertising. That's what led us to build Rembrand.
That's awesome, Omar. I'd love for you to. Well, I mean, look, I guess maybe we'll get into it in the topics, but I'm looking forward to hearing like a real life example of that, and I think our listeners would love to hear about that as well. But it sounds like, jumping into the first topic about revolutionizing storytelling and branding. This is amazing, because this is something that could never have been done just a few years ago, right?
That's right. There have been several players that tried to make virtual product placement scale in the past, and they did a good job of starting to get adoption for virtual product placement, but it was still high friction, because After they'd identify a piece of content, a bunch of VFX people would get engaged. You had the content owners having a perspective, and it was just a very high friction world. Where we think it's different now is we found a way to do this all with AI. So you take the humans out of the loop. And we've also found a way to make it entirely programmatic so that you can leverage existing pipes, existing budgets, existing relationships for this form of ad. And I think that's really needed if you want to scale something and bring it to mass adoption.
So going back to my first statement, let's give us an example. Like, what, I'm an influencer, I'm whatever, on my channel having a conversation with with my followers. I've got 1 million followers out there, whatever it is. How does this work? Well, give us a real live example of how this works.
Yeah, so there's this a whole group of influencers that we work with because we partnered with United Talent Agencies, one of our investors, and then we went out and did deals with a whole bunch of the great talent agencies, WME and the like, and they help us sign up a very large roster of influencers. So we tap into maybe 2,500 of the top influencers who have just ridiculous global reach, really, really big global reach, several hundred million. And what happens is when a brand like a Pepsi comes along, so we did campaigns with folks like Star and Bubbly, and they spoke about the results on stage, and folks like L'Oreal, when they have a campaign to run, we put that campaign in system, and the influencer will come into our system, and they're about to post a video to TikTok or YouTube, and they pull the virtual object off of the shelf. So they might see a can of bubbly or a Garnier shampoo, and they literally virtually pull it off and they put it onto their desk in the video, and then we rewrite the video for them and they put it up on YouTube and TikTok. And what they see is really interesting. They see very strong brand lift. So we've done brand lift studies. We've done over a dozen and published results with Kantar that shows people just remember these products way better if they see them in this organic context. You see consumers commenting about the products, and sometimes we'll do little tricks like we'll animate the product. So it's just sitting there on this desk for 10 minutes, and all of a sudden it animates. People are like, whoa, I didn't realize that was virtual. And so, it definitely garners attention for the brand, and that's been very effective for them. So, I'd say that gives you a sense of like the types of things that we do. And that's how we started. I'll talk in a minute how it's evolved because it's changed to become programmatic. But we might have a chess influencer who comes in and has an audience, and she's posting every chess game she has, and then right next to her you'll see a can of bubbly that she likes sitting on the desk.
That's awesome. And because we're limited on time, I want to keep us moving. And then I know you were going to talk a little bit more about that, but can you focus a little more on the data part of it and the insights and get into the next topic, which is smarter, personalized marketing decisions?
Yeah. So the way we used to work was we take your campaign brief and look at the audience you want, and then we'd match you to influencers who have exactly that audience. So it was a data-driven process to get to influencers. You would then approve the influencer, and the products would show up only to those influencers. So that was data-driven in the sense of going from brief to matching exact influencers. And we work with some of the best data companies out there that have the data on who are the best influencers to work with. Um, so, for example, when one of L'Oreal's products wanted to go after female influencers, and we chose Alexandra Botez, who's a well-known chess streamer. So that's going back to the example I did before. So that was data driven. What we're doing now is even more data driven in the sense that we created this product called virtual product ads. Virtual product ads are not limited to putting the product in the next episode. They basically look at the entire back catalog across all influencers. They find exactly the right clip where somebody's saying something like, I'm thirsty, I want a drink, or they're saying something about, they're cooking a barbecue, and then you have a condiment that's relevant to that food. So you choose the exact right clip, and then you only show that clip to the audience of that influencer, but you do it programmatically. So that's completely data driven, not just in the selection of the influencer, but you're literally only targeting the audience of that influencer. So it kind of really raises the bar on the kinds of things that you can do. You're bringing influencer market into the programmatic realm.
I love that. And as you're talking, you're sparking questions from the commenters here in the live chat. So just real quick, we've got a few I'll show you. David is asking, am I hearing you right that you are able to put the virtual product on the front of the video?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we do is we deconstruct the 3D scene using AI, and we find a place to put it. And we try to find a place that's natural. So for example, we don't do an overlay where it's just pasted on the screen. We literally put it on the table. Or like if you take a scene like mine, um, you're looking behind me and you don't have that much room. So maybe we would put a shelf behind me and put the product on the shelf. Or if it's a digital product, we might put a TV screen, that's sitting in your room, and then put the product in the TV screen. So you've got, this ability to make it look natural by putting 3D object on a 3D surface if it's available. If it's not available, put a piece of furniture there and then put it on the virtual furniture. And if that still doesn't work, put a TV screen on the wall and put it in the TV screen.
Just such a great question. And I love what you guys are doing there. That's really interesting. David, was there anything you wanted to comment in terms of what he was saying about in regards to data or anything before that?
Yeah, on the one thing that sticks in the back of my mind, because this is our business, everything is consumer driven and targeting. So I'm curious, like, how far away are you from being able to actually do this so that what I see is different than what Jesse sees? Jesse likes bubbly, but you know what? I like, whatever, Pepsi. So,
Love that question.
yeah.
Yeah, so we can do that in two ways today. We don't have to go out into the future. So with our virtual product ads, you're already going to have two different people are going to see two different versions of it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you had someone wanting, Gatorade and someone wanting bubbly. And let's say both those advertisers were working with us. We would go find, we would take the standard Gatorade ad, and before showing that ad, we would show you a piece of content from an influencer with Gatorade sitting on the table. And Jesse would see the influencer she likes with Gatorade sitting on the table, and then she'd see the Gatorade ad. And you, on the other hand, would see an influencer or a TV show that you like with the Gatorade on the table, and then it would bleed into the ad. You'd both see the same Gatorade ad, but you'd see different content integrated with the Gatorade right in front of the ad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're tailoring the content integration to your taste, and you're literally both seeing different things. And the reason this is available today and didn't require really difficult changes to the ecosystem, it's because we moved the virtual product ad into the programmatic realm where the pipes are already accommodating this.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to do this inside an organic piece of content that sits inside of YouTube or TikTok, the system wouldn't let you, because that same organic content is just seen by everybody, and you're not able to interrupt what people see in the organic content. You could do that in ad interruptions, but not in the organic part. So this kind of hacks the system by taking the content out, fusing it with an ad, and running it programmatically, where you can literally show different things to different people.
That
Okay.
is so cool.
Okay, but Jesse and I like the same influencers, but she likes bubbly and I like Gatorade. How do
I
we
love
do
it.
that?
You're raising the bar on me. So that one requires programmatic pipes in the same content. For that, what happens there is, let's say you're watching a show. We can actually put two different products in the same show, but what you're doing is you're using a server-side ad insertion technique to make sure that you see a different product than I see, right? So the way
Yeah.
server-side ad insertion works is the logic, instead of being inside of like the client for CTV happens on the server. And today what happens is that server knows when to do an ad slot. And that's basically how you have targeting in CTV. So what we did to hack that system is basically say we don't have to wait for an ad interruption to use the server side logic. We could take a piece of content that isn't an ad, but use that same set of pipes and same set of logic that already exists to say, I'm going to content serve this piece of content. I'm just going to happen to have bubbly for one and Gatorade for another. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how we would do what you want. But to be honest, it's not exactly what you're asking for, that Jesse likes, bubbly and you like Gatorade. It's more like Gatorade wants to target
Sure.
Jesse, and bubbly wants to target you. The consumer preference is just one step away.
So cool. And it really is important too, because these days people don't want to see branded ads anymore. They want to see the organic content. And so you've really got into something important here. But let's keep it moving on our third topic with predictive analytics, fueling business growth and strategy. Could you kick us off here?
This stuff has to work. At the end of the day, we can pitch till we're blue in the face. So you can even get a whole bunch of budget to try stuff, but it has to drive sales at the end of the day. And so what we've been working on is trying to essentially instrument the whole process. So we started out by doing Kantar studies to understand brand lift, and we've seen some very good brand lift. Then the next step was to be able to take this and instrument whether you're seeing sales lift or not. And we've seen some good results on the sales lift side too. And I think that's really the holy grail of this. And being able to do this in a way where now, instead of you're just being able to measure ads, now you can measure these virtual product ads, which include organic content. I think it's a very important move for this industry to be able to scale. And we work with folks where the large portion of our campaigns have some sort of measurement study in everything we do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a reason why product placement works, right? And there's a reason why they call them influencers as well, right? And because the reality is, it's the same thing in product placement. There's sort of a movie can be an influencer, just like the actor can be an influencer within that movie if they're doing something, and their followers, their fans are they're going to follow in their footsteps, whether it be loving the car that they see that celebrity driving in that movie, or whatever it is that they're drinking or wearing. And so I think that you can definitely prove that brand lift because we know it's there. It's just a matter of demonstrating it as well. It'll be
I'm sorry, what you're saying is so important. I just want to underline
Yeah,
that
sure.
this whole idea of trust leverage, which
Yeah.
is the brands basically know that consumers have flipped. They now trust influencers more than they trust the brands. So
True.
the brands are like, hey, why don't I let the influencer speak for me? And it's very powerful when they do so. There's one wrinkle that we've seen in this that most brands and most influencers won't admit. So I'm just going to say it. And that is that a brand will tell you that, hey, it's way more authentic to hear the influencer talk about me. But consumers are starting to figure out that that influencer was paid to talk about it. And so, and I get it. There is some authenticity there because the influencer's only going to do a deal with a brand that they think resonates with them. So there is some authenticity. But we've taken it to one level further, which is we say, we want you to film your authentic organic content before you know what brand is in it. That way, we know you're going to say exactly what you think you want to say that your audience wants to hear. And then you, the influencer, get to choose what gets integrated in it. But that almost does a separation of church and state in the sense that the brand didn't influence what you say. So we're trying to raise the bar on authenticity in a way that hasn't been done before.
So
That's awesome.
interesting.
Yeah.
So due to another question we got in the comments, and because of the fact that we're on a live stream right now, how do you drive recommendations for on-screen virtual products as an influencer is live streaming?
We don't yet do live streams. But there is a part of your question which is very relevant that I'll answer. And the reason we don't yet do live streams is that we're rewriting the video, and that means our AI has to deconstruct the physics of the video, which includes kind of lighting, it includes understanding 3D surfaces. It now includes camera movement, and by the way, we just started working with TV shows, which tend to have nonstop camera movement. And so to be able to reconstruct the physics of a 3D environment, that is computationally heavy. We do it in the speed of compute, but it's not yet real time. We'll probably get there. So that's the first part of your question. But the second part of your question really had to do with what you recommend. And we still have to recommend, even if it's not a live stream. So we've used an agentic approach to this, which is to say, when we get a brand, we first want to, know what your website is, what the brand is. We want to know what your social handle is, and we will have agents go out and read your site and actually watch the videos that are linked into your social feed. So we understand what influencers you tend to like, what your brand voice is, your imagery of the product, all that our agents are able to do. And then when you give us a brief, what we will do is we will start looking at our catalog of influencers that match you, all the videos they've posted, and we'll look at the catalog of TV shows. And the agents that have already looked at your website and looked at your previous videos are influencing the search process to pick out exactly the scene and recommend to you the right scene to enter your product. So your question about recommendations was spot on. A lot of technology is built to really match your product to the right scene. And we think the idea of not waiting for your next episode and doing a force fitting of this particular product in this episode, but rather going back to the entire catalog and finding the exact few moments to put the product in, it makes the recommendation engine more powerful.
So while you're talking, you just gave me the idea. Can we send you this video when we're done, and maybe you can put some product placement in it for us, and we'll demonstrate exactly how this works.
Absolutely.
We'll repost the video for our users.
Totally.
That'd be awesome. We should definitely do that.
Get the idea of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of time till you can do it in a live stream. You know, it's because compute is getting there. You know, I mean, everything is computing so quickly. So we will like to sign up as your beta tester as well for that.
Yeah, and there are tricks you can do. Like, what's interesting about your scenes is probably they don't change that much. So you can look at a past scene to understand the 3D dynamics. So in the next episode, you've already figured that out.
Yeah. This is all we do. Just these like little camera changes. We're all sitting in the same spot every time.
That's right. It's essentially fixed camera, which again makes it easier on the AI. Yeah.
Pretty easy. Totally. Yeah. Okay. So one question we ask everyone who comes on Deconstructing Data is, what are your favorite tools in your tech stack? And, we don't need your secrets, but like, what are really the tools that empower you and your team? And we hear everything from like my phone and my email to like your favorite AI tools or data storage or, anything you want to get into.
Oh boy, give me a second here to think through that. But a lot of this has to do with not like me. It has to do with my technology team on the type of things that they find interesting. So whether that's leveraging something like Anthropic for being able to have one of the agents understand the brand voice of a brand that we work with. Like we specialize in kind of visual understanding. So we have our own foundation models that actually understands 3D. But when it comes to the text understanding, we didn't have to rewrite that. We could, partner with people who do that. Another example would be when we want to create brand imagery to insert an object. We sometimes do that, but sometimes we will leverage a partner like a stability.ai or something to generate a poster that we're going to stick inside of a TV screen. We didn't have to do everything ourselves. So although we focus on the technology of 3D understanding and rewriting video based on a 3D mesh, that we generate with our own foundation model. There's a lot of pieces around that, around like audio or text, or generative posters, that we're very happy to use the stack around us to complete the job to be done.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome. Yeah, it's always interesting to learn what kind of tools people are using to empower them.
Yeah, we hear all sorts of things, especially in this new age of new AI, where everyone's building an AI tool, including
Mhm.
myself and David. We've built our own AI apps now.
That's right. I bet. I was a weekend ago, I was playing around with Lovable just for my own
Yeah.
personal, and it was pretty fascinating, the stuff it was doing, and it was a little bit comical. You'd ask it to do something, and it would do it in model form.
Hmm.
Like it would kind of demo examples, but then when you come to actually run it as an app, you really have to dig deeper and deeper, and like, okay,
Yeah.
no, this has to actually go into a database, and then it has to actually go visit websites and parse them, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did one of those recently. This weekend, rainy day. I'm like, all right. And I was, I think I did it on Lovable, but I also did it on Google's AI Studio, and I was
Nice.
comparing how different they are and how, the similarities. And I forget which one it was. I had asked it to do some computations, and then at one point I'm like, why does this? I literally asked it. I'm like, why does this distribution seem random? and then it said, oh, I was doing a random distribution because I didn't know how to get this data that I needed in order to do this. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like a super junior associate.
Yeah.
Like it does everything right. And the other thing I noticed with a lot of the tools, and there was articles written about this, is they're a little bit obsequious. In other words, they just try to please you a little too much.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, if you don't mind me going off for a second on that, is like we had this problem a few years ago with the filter bubble, which is I only see, what the friends around me, the content that's recommended because of the friends around me. And so
Mm-hmm.
my world gets smaller and smaller, and I get the illusion that the whole world agrees with me. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the filter bubble. But when you include what's going on with LMs, you have this additional thing where the algorithms want to keep you there, so they tend to be very nice, and they agree with you a little too much. So you're getting a filter bubble that's constraining the world, um, in one way, and then LLMs that are further feeding you a little bit more of what you want to hear. Um,
Hmm.
it's just very interesting how that's going to influence people's brains.
Yeah, I noticed with Claude, a lot of times it gives you an answer. If you ask it, "Are you sure?" Then it comes back and says, "Oh, you were right for asking that. Now that I think about it, I think we should do it this way or whatever." Like it comes up with another suggestion, which is like, okay.
The
Exactly
new
right.
age. Well, in closing, Omar, would you like to tell listeners how they could find you after the show?
Absolutely. Omar at Rembrand.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, and be glad to answer any questions you have about this or anything else.
This has been an
Awesome.
awesome conversation, Omar. I would really appreciate you taking the time to join us today out of your busy schedule. Love what you're doing and love to, keep in touch and see where it goes. So thank you again.
Awesome, David and Jesse. That was a great conversation, and David, enjoy the vacation. I know that's rare for you, so have fun.
Yes,
Thank you.
and thank you for taking time out because we know you have a flight to catch. So we really appreciate your time. This has been an excellent conversation. And audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. So I put a QR code up on the screen that you can scan. But if you're listening to this later on podcast, just head on over to bdex.com. But BDEX's comprehensive identity graph, it enables you to build audiences that will reach real people and turn your anonymous website visitors into real actionable customer insights, eliminating the bots and the bad data that waste your marketing's budget. So whether you're struggling with cart abandonment, there's poor targeting, or declining performance, we deliver the most accurate identity resolution and custom audiences in the industry. And that's to drive your measurable ROI. So just visit bdex.com. Like I said, click on talk to an expert and get powered by BDEX. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks again, everyone. I'm going to close this out with the video.